Empowered Intuitive Academy podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tay Henderson, and with me is my beautiful co-host, Petra Costa, and you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, hopefully you're watching on YouTube and Spotify right now at the Empowered Intuitive Academy. Today, we are chatting about freaky creatures, an ode to David Attenborough.
Love you, David.
Love you, David. I watched your new doco, David, on Sound. It was great. I watched it. Oh, so cool. But we wanted to do freaky creatures because freaky creatures are cool, and there are actually tons of them. And it's funny because when I was going through like the main list that I had, it was like there was a few that popped up that were like fossa and echidna and that, and I'm like, yeah, they're not that weird. But then there were some that it was like, oh, hold the phone, that's a bit gross.
There's some out there that are just amazing of what they can do and quite horrendous of what they're willing to do as part of how they've evolved
To survive, how they evolve. Yes. Yeah. So what do you have?
Well, I'm going to have one that I actually haven't researched at all, but I just wanted to throw it in there at the start in terms of, because we just mentioned evolution. And there's this amazing viper snake that always freaks the absolute living shit out of me whenever I see it, because it's actually evolved so that its tail looks like a massive spider. So it's got like the bulbous.
That is cool.
And all these filaments that come off it that look like legs. And what it does is it goes in a rocky outcrop, and it has just the tip of its tail out, and it gives a little bit of a wiggle to. So the birds see it thinking they've got a nice juicy spider that they can have a munch on. They come flying down, and viper comes out, bang.
That is actually so cool.
And if you see it, it's like a horrendously scary looking spider, and it's so realistic. It's like a bloody black widow. Not black widow, it looks more like a funnel web. Or a tarantula even, because it's got the big stuck right on the end of its tail. And I think this is where evolution is just like ridiculously amazing, because if you think of the process that must have occurred, like you would have a snake there that just had, oh, Bill, you've got a bit of a bump on your tail, and Bill's like going, yeah, but the birds seem to love it.
Yeah, the birds seem to like it. Yeah.
It brings the birds around.
Yeah.
And
my
so
he tail goes to the yard.
And so he then obviously his progeny had a big bump on their bum, and that got bigger, and then somehow it developed into having legs, and then we've got literally a spider slapped on the end of a snake so that it can catch its prey.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's crazy, the amount of cellular intelligence and DNA intelligence that just takes those little observations and things over time and then manifests it into a fucking spider tail. Brilliant. Love it.
I can get with our evolution when they say humans are going to have, like, you know, our thumbs are going to change shape and our fingers because of using devices. I can sort of like get that, because it's actually altering during a course of our life, and then that genes get passed on.
We're changing through epigenetics, through what we're exposed to in our environment and what we're
but that viper, I give you points for that. Can I go into my next one, which is a little bit...
You can absolutely go into your next one.
I did research this, and this one led me down a wonderful trail that I followed of the ants' pheromones to try and find what was going on. I started off researching this one because I remember the kids did an assignment on this back in the day when they were in high school, maybe even primary school, and it was about the concept of an exploding ant. And there's these Malaysian ants that effectively have the workers in their community that will fill their body up with enzymes, and then if under attack, they will suicidally explode, just poof, and like effectively take out as many people as they can.
They're terrorist ants.
It's to protect it's more like a kamikaze kind of mission.
Yes, yeah.
And what I thought was really interesting was that I thought it was just this one particular type that did it, and there's two different species that do the same thing, but they effectively employ it differently. So one of them will actually, when they're out and they're fighting, when they're having a territorial fight, because if people didn't realize this, ants are highly, highly territorial.
They are. They so are.
They so are. So that when they're out and they're doing their thing and having their fight, they'll explode and they'll just take out everyone. And then if you've got a whole bunch of them that go, you ready? You ready? Let poof. And they can just make an explosion line where they just whatever. But you also have another breed of them where they, and termites are seen to do this as well, that they will do it in their tunnels. So if their tunnels look like they're going to be invaded, they all flood up into a tunnel. So they're in a position to block it, and then they explode themselves. So they effectively plug the tunnel.
They cause a cave in.
With their own dead body. Yeah, and with their own dead bodies. They basically pile their own dead bodies up there. So whatever's trying to attack or invade the nest can't get in there.
That is crazy, isn't it? That is so crazy. Like they just do it too. There's no arguing. There's no Frank can't go. He's got larvae. Like it's just no, bros. There, we've got fucking plugged this whole stack. Like y'all ready for this? Yeah. It's just fucking exploding termites.
I know they're coming. They're coming. They've got that look in their eye. So yeah, and it's just I just found it absolutely crazy that they would go to that level to protect the nest. But when I look into ants further later on, when I start talking about ants, I will go into some of the crazy stuff that's not freaky now, because that's obviously freaky.
That is a bit freaky that they'll just fucking
and again, like
blow themselves up.
They've evolved, and ants do a lot of things with their evolution in terms of it. And I'll go into their civilization structure later because that is crazy. But they also have ones that are called honeypot ants.
Yes, love their honeypot. They're so cool.
And from my understanding, is they basically have a plated structure on their abdomen that allows them to expand and expand and expand, so they can take on the secretions of the plants. They fill themselves up, so they're they've chugged it. And then they go down to where the colony is, and they just sit there, just hanging. All their mates that are full to the brim, and the other ants then can just tap on them, and apparently they just go up very politely and brush their antenna against each other and say,
can I have some?
You got some of the, you got some of the sweet stuff.
Hook us up.
And they just do a little bit of a, and they.
How did that go?
And they do a bit of a regurgitate, and they go the anus as well. But I'm not going to do it of that. Enough of that. But yeah,
I had some, bro. Sure.
But if that's not amazing ingenuity, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that. And I will put a little fun fact is I think they're indigenous to Australia, the honey.
Yeah.
And indigenous people not only know of these wonderful little stores of huge amounts of nutrients, they've actually studied it, and what they have within them in the honeypot is it's known for the indigenous people to help with sore throats. And then when they studied what it was that the honeypot ant actually has in them, it is antibacterial to the staphylococci. Which is what we get in our throats often that causes a sore throat. And also it has antifungal properties. So
didn't we just talk about this type of thing last week about how medicine's coming from nature? It's amazing stuff.
I just love that one, that it was so specifically correct. Like they've always said, oh yeah, go get yourself some honey pot for your sore throat. It's good for it. Just like we say, honey and a cup of tea. But when they actually studied it, it was like bang on for one of the most common causes of sore throat.
So next time you get a sore throat, just find a honey pot out and just tickle antenna and go, yo, can I have some? And but Oh, that's funny.
Now, the last thing I'm going to do, I've got lots more on ants, but I want to do something because I know it feeds through into one of your topics.
Yes, yes.
Now, this would have freaked a lot of people out when they watched that. What was it called, The Last of Us or something?
Yes, yes.
So there was this crazy series that was talking about zombification and how funguses are fungi is going to be the thing that takes down humanity.
Yeah.
Because we can all become zombies by this.
Yeah. We get infected via spores and stuff like that. Yeah.
Now, it's actually a real thing in nature, and it actually does occur. And there's ants specifically. They have this fungus. And what happens if they eat a fungal infected bit of leaf? The fungus gets into their body. It then takes over their systems so that it forces them to go to an environment where it is perfect for fungal growth. So it actually forces them either to go up into the canopy or down, depending on where they're normally centered. It then gets them to basically bite onto a leaf. So with just bite on, and then it won't allow it to let go. And then while it's there attached to this leaf, the fungus then takes over, multiplies within the ant's body while the ant is still alive. So this happens for about 10 days that it's hijacked it. It's just growing.
Jesus.
The whole time the ant literally can't let go because it's hanging onto this, place. Yeah, so 4 to 10 days it does this. And then just before it dies, fungus spores ruptures out of the ant's body and just basically just goes exactly like every horror movie we've ever seen.
Yeah. But for ants.
It is exactly like it. And it just literally, all of those horror movies where it's the spore just going out at you, it is what it looks like. So I say to everybody, go and have a look.
Yes.
Online to see exactly what this looks like. Now, that's all horrific. But we're not so worried about that because there's certain conditions that are required for
the fungi to survive. And
they really don't think that it's something that we have to be worried about at this time.
Yeah.
So much to the point that they don't think we should be worried about it. They're actually researching some of the substances found in these particular funguses because they have active antibacterial agents that actually protect the fungus host. I've got it written here, highlighted, that these antibacterials protect the fungus host ecosystem against further pathogenesis during fungal reproduction. And for that reason, we're researching it as the potential interest for uses humans immunomodalitarily, really long word that I can't do. Anti-infective and anti-cancer treatments. And I've got in brackets here a nod back to a previous podcast. What could
go wrong? We're gonna get a fucking Last of Us I Am Legend hybrid zombie thing.
Like, I get what you're saying, guys. It's got an antibacterial in it. Like, I get it. But we've actually seen this fungus and because fungus is just like everybody.
Yeah.
Like every cell on Earth, its objective is to reproduce.
Yeah. Right?
Yes. That's all it cares about. It didn't care about anything else. And it can actually run anything that can run your body while you're still in your body, like you're still alive, and it can run you.
Yeah.
And like, oh, run over here, Petra, and hang
on
the tree, Petra. While
I've covered a similar a creature, except the creature itself is responsible for like having that same paratoid, parasitic, passive control over other creatures. Because it's a parasitic relationship that they share. Dementor wasps. So Dementor wasps are native to Thailand. They were only discovered in 2007 and named in 2014 after the Dementors from Harry Potter, because they are said to suck the soul out of their victims. But what they actually do is inject a venom, which is neurotoxic, takes over the neural pathways, into the heads of cockroaches. And
Okay.
the cockroaches, once they're stung, they have no control whatsoever, but the wasps somehow get them to herd into their nest. So they just pretty much like become zombies, walk them into the nest. And then once they're in the nest, these wasps then lay their eggs in the cockroaches. And I watched a video of this, and it was fucking
That's
brutal
gnarly. That's
and
not.
horrendous. I'm like, wow,
Mm.
this is some
Yeah.
next level shit. Like this is some botfly shit.
Yeah.
And so the cockroach will sit there, not moving or anything, has no control, can't go anywhere, still alive while these larvae are gestating inside it. And then the larvae pop out and they eat every non-essential organ first to prolong the life of the host.
Oh, that's
Then they eat the
smart.
essential organs until they're ready to pop out of the cockroach, who is still alive, right up until the point where the wasp pops out of it like a fucking face hugger from Alien. And then it's a full grown wasp.
Oh my
Yep.
goodness.
So Dementor wasps.
Like, I can get it, but up until the point when you start like going, I like my food supply fresh.
Yeah, yep, yep.
I'm only gonna
I'm
trim
only
a
gonna
bit.
eat it unless
It's
it's
like all those horror
alive.
movies when they hang people up. I'm gonna trim a bit here and I'm gonna trim.
Yes, yep.
They're basically just slicing and dicing bits of you just to look.
I watched, yeah, literally Hannibal style. I watched a movie when I was, oh God, I
Nice
can't even
Chianti and
remember.
some fava
You
beans
some
for those
fava
wasps.
beans. Mm.
Oh,
Um,
that's harsh.
yeah, I watched this movie when I was a kid, and it's called Pterodactyl. And you literally watch this big, and it's like a B grade fucking movie.
Yeah.
They pick up this chick or whatever from the lake, and he puts it in its nest, and then you just watch as like she's in the nest, and there's this other fella, and he's literally getting eaten alive by like these baby pterodactyls. Like that's what it looks like, and they're
Yeah.
just like pecking at his guts. I'm like, what the actual fuck? Like, I'm pretty sure getting eaten alive would be the top list of ways I don't want to die.
I'm pretty confident, and somehow like having something impregnated in you, and
Yes.
then it like, yeah, I'm sorry, but the bit that is that even the babies are smart enough to go to
To the
non-essential.
non-essential
I
organs.
just think of the evolution required for that, of how many
Yep.
people went, oh,
Yep.
Bill, you just ate its blooming. Now we're gonna have this non-tasty cockroach snack because it's
Well,
gonna be
now the
part of the
cockroach is
food.
going to expire prematurely. You're on a time limit to bust out now.
Oh,
I can't
okay.
transplant you in another cockroach. It's already been done.
Look, insects can be ferocious, and I
Yeah.
think that's why the concept of a really large insect is very frightening to us. Like in a horror movie, like watching
Mm.
one of those, Godzilla versus Mothman.
Yeah.
You can understand why they're just frightening in terms of what they can do and the levels that they'll go to in this regard. And we know, for instance, you've got a fly that
Yes.
digestive system requires it to effectively just vomit up onto something. I think some actually can vomit up the stomach sac as well.
Yeah.
And they basically dissolve whatever they're sitting on, and then they just slurp it all back in.
Yeah.
And then when you've obviously got spiders that like to inject their venom, which
Yeah, which
they kind of
emulsifies and then they make it into a smoothie.
exactly, they make a smoothie out of it. It's
Yep.
like literally like
Yep.
when we see a coconut and you just put a straw in it, that's pretty much what
And
the
snake
spiders.
venom does the same thing. Snake venom emulsifies and coagulates blood and stuff so that it's easier to swallow whole prey.
That's lovely.
Like it turns it into just a little jelly sack.
Okay, well that's all horrific. Now I'm going to go into some of the really exciting ant facts.
Okay.
It's funny that in one breath we can say that they're the most civilized creature in the insect community, are the ants, and they actually say their intellect is higher than bees in terms of the level of system.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know how you judge the. I don't think they're sitting for IQ tests, but they're able
sitting for the NAPLAN, right, kids? Do us
people out there. They outnumber us by an amount that is ridiculous, and effectively for every one of us, there is 1.5 million ants. 14,000 different species with 1,758 subspecies. There's estimated to be about 10 quadrillion ants on Earth. And I had to actually look up what a quadrillion was. And the easiest way I could find to describe it is that it's a million billion.
Right. Yeah.
So effectively, the scientific term is there's a shit ton.
Yeah.
There's a veritable shit ton of ants out there. So that's fine. We all know the stuff that they can carry, 50 times up to 50 times their own body weight can the soldier ants. But I don't know if people actually know what that means in terms of what would that be equivalent to. So I quickly did some conversions to give you a bit of an idea of how much weight is involved in that. So that means the equivalent would be for an 80-kilogram human would be able to lift 4 ton. And that means they could actually lift an adult hippopotamus. Just bench it.
What the hell? Yeah. Yeah.
Or I actually made a note here that that's the equivalent of an unloaded semi-trailer. Or I've got here Optimus Prime.
Optimus Prime. Ants are just benching Optimus Prime.
Yeah. So that's the equivalent. So it would be the equivalent of us being able to lift up a semi-trailer.
Yeah.
That they're basically just doing that. And they're just like, they're running. They're having a race back to the nest. They're doing that. Crazy.
Pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Ants obviously form symbiotic relationships with plants. But we know that they can do that because they effectively farm. Like ants are farmers. They were hunters and gatherers way before we even thought of the process.
Yeah.
So not only do they actually have plants that are formed specifically to have ant, friendly havens within the plant structure, so that the ants can be protected there, do their business, go up and do them because they're helping with pollination, they're helping remove pests from these plants.
Yeah, it ends up being a co-evolutionary thing where the plants are all right, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours and see where this goes.
Exactly. And so they actually have this structure in the leaf stem that's basically got a little tunnel that the animals run up, and that's so they can get aphids and they can get all of the pests and the bugs off them.
That's cool.
But what I didn't realize is the ants actually then farm the aphids. So they actually, because aphids produce a secretion that the ants find yummy, and so they actually farm these aphids. So although they're saying, oh, I'm going to take them off you because you don't want them up there, I'm going to transport them somewhere else and let them grow. And
they just milk them like cows.
They milk the aphids.
I want some aphid milk in my latte, please.
Like, did anyone know that? Like, I knew that they farmed funguses and stuff in terms of the fact that they would bring fungus to a place and then they would create the right conditions in terms of it being humid, etc., so that they could farm this fungus. But I didn't know that they were also literally milking their own cows.
That is actually funny as.
Is that pretty cool? So
that's cool. That's pretty cool. All I knew was that ladybugs ate aphids. That was it.
I was just like amazed by this. There's so many ant facts that we've got. I didn't realize they did that. I did not realize ants actually enslave other ants. So that they actually go out there and they find another colony. Not all breeds of ants do this, but there's that basically raid another nest, take all of the ants back and force them into slave labor for their colony.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, so they've got all of the, good parts of civilization and some of the really crappy parts.
Yeah, literally. If that's not a reflection of a human colony, I don't know what is.
I know, and it's in the Amazon that she does that, and she basically the queen is the one that thinks about it. She goes and kills that queen and then enslaves all of them.
Enslaves all the
until they die off, and then she'll just go and get another load. Okay, that's
wow.
Ants were around the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're doing well in terms of not changing their structure too much.
Yeah.
That's fine. Knew that. I also knew that in terms of them being able to do this humidification for their fungus, I also knew that an ant's nest has effectively an air conditioning system. So that, which is also a termite nest, does this as well.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, ants and termites are not directly related to each other, which I just assumed that they were.
No.
They are not. Ants are more directly linked to bees and wasps than they are to termites. Anyway, so by having this system of tunnels that they block and unblock and block and unblock, they allow the heat to be trapped and the heat to be released from their tunneling system based on where the sun is and what's going on. And they also have a system where if there's rain coming, they'll block certain tunnels to stop, or they'll create new tunnel systems to try to get the water to run off so it doesn't flood the essential chambers. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
So you engineers go.
Yeah, look at them go. Now, we also know that scout ants run off, find a food supply, and they just run around, they find a food supply. Once they've found the food supply, that's when they start leaving the pheromone trail. And they have the ability, even though they have literally run circles everywhere trying to find that crumb of cake that someone dropped on the ground, they will then know exactly where the nest is and will make a beeline straight for it. So that's when they start leaving the trail. So that's why it's not all this convoluted long thing, because they know by using electromagnetism as well as recognizing key points that they will know where nest is. And so they go, okay, great food supply. Let's go. Let's lay down the trail that all of the other ants can find. And
sometimes I like to fuck with ants and like put my finger across where they've been and see what they do. Because I knew about the pheromone trails.
You're horrible, Muriel. But having said that, I don't think there's anyone that hasn't done that. And they're quite amazing as to how they can just reform a trail around it. But yeah, they actually are using geomagnetic frequencies and picking up on that field to navigate their way back to the nest, which is absolutely freaking crazy to me that they have the capacity to be able to do that. One thing I did see also was, if you've ever seen ants in a death spiral, and effectively, well, Tay wouldn't have right now, but the death spiral is where they've gotten confused somehow. That pheromone trail has gone into a circle and the ants just slowly feed into it so that you can have thousands and thousands and thousands of ants effectively creating their own little black hole. And they will run around and run around and run around in circles until they die. They die of exhaustion because they are such creatures of habit. They follow the trail. They don't know how to break away from the trail, because if they're not ones that were set to the trail, they'll just follow and they keep running, which is like the final scene in the movie Stephen King's Cell, where they're all just running around crazy.
Yeah.
And this can get to being huge. They're just thousands of ants.
It's the mosh that never ends.
The never-ending mosh.
The never-ending mosh, the death spiral.
All of these things are crazy about ants, and there's lots of other things. I'm not going to go into all of them. The one thing I'm going to leave is they actually have such a great memory that if they note the time of day. So if they've found that food's normally coming to bear at a certain time, so effectively lunchtime, people have picnics at this place in the park at lunchtime, and they've found food scatterings there, they will revisit that place just to see if food comes back, because they believe it's going to be a pattern. So they'll do that for up to 5 days until the pattern ceases.
So they conduct their own little research expedition and see, the trending pattern of where the food is coming through.
David's food came through yesterday at 12 o'clock. There's a good chance it might be there tomorrow. Let's just check and see. And so they will remember locations and time of days, and they will set their clock so that they go there and visit at that particular time. I think that's amazing.
That is pretty intelligent. Well, I want to get back to the freaky for a minute. I mean, ants are pretty cool and freaky, but let's go see. Speaking of evolutionary intelligence, So one of the first creatures I come across, apart from the Dementor wasp when I was researching, was the glass frog.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
So
No idea what
glass
this is.
frogs are native to South America, Central American rainforest. They are typically green, like a light lime green in color, but they get their name glass frog from the fact that their abdomen and the outer edges of their legs are translucent or transparent.
Yeah.
They're transparent to the point where you can see their internal viscera, their heart, their liver, their GI tract. Everything inside is completely visible if you get to see the underbelly of the frog. They have this really cool ability to suck up all their blood and store it in the liver without it coagulating so that it becomes completely translucent.
Oh.
So that's usually when they're inactive, sitting on a leaf. When they're hopping about and doing their thing, the blood, you can watch the blood circulate around the body.
Wow.
Yeah. But this translucency makes them really good at camouflage, because what happens is that the top of them is camouflaged to the color of the leaf. And instead of seeing a shadowy outline of the frog's mass, you get green, because they're translucent, and the outer edges of the legs having the clear gets rid of the outline.
They'll just blend in.
Yeah. So their likelihood of being picked up by predators diminishes immensely. So they live in trees majorly, eat bugs like any other normal frog. They come out for mating season, where they drop their eggs and spawn their eggs, and then the eggs sort of like incubate in little leaf couplets until the tadpoles fall to the forest floor and live in like pools of water and stuff, which is quite a common thing with most South American species of frog. But yeah, so they're actually looking at these frogs to study their anti-clotting agents and see if we can apply that to medicine. But they are at risk because of their damage to habitat and stuff. So the researching them is not entirely going full steam ahead because they don't want to jeopardize the population.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool. There's also
it's because you think anticoagulant and you think leeches, mosquitoes, in terms of that. You know, we all know it means to not allow it to clot.
Yeah.
But I've never really thought about that. I'm just always thinking that when it hits air or hits whatever, I've never thought about that in terms of where it pulls in your own body, which is obviously where great risks, blood clots, etc.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool little frog. So the barrel-eye fish was the next one I got, and this one's sort of like an ode to our Under the Sea episode, because we were talking about all the creepy ass creatures that live in the different sections of the ocean, and how, you know, a lot of them are translucent. They rely on bioluminescence to get their prey and stuff, or they're blind because there's no point of eyesight in the deep. But barrel-eye fish are a small deep-sea fish with a transparent dome head. So what that means is that this part of their head is completely see-through. You can see their brain, their nerve endings, and they've got these two big green tubular eyes up the top. They have no cones, so they're colorblind, but they can rotate the eyes top and sides to better see where their prey is, and they prey on other invertebrates and planktons and crustaceans that live in the sea, and they live in the twilight zone. So it is 650 to 3,300 feet below the surface level of the ocean. They were first discovered in 1938. And another cool thing they like to do is eat the prey entangled in jellyfish tendrils. So they go, oh, you've got some leftovers in your beard. They come along and have a little nibble. Yeah, they're opportunistic little predators. they've tried to bring these fish up to research them, but the shield that sits in their transparent dome head is actually quite fragile, especially with the shifting pressure. So it gets damaged. So they're limited to what research they can do with them, and they don't necessarily know how they reproduce as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So the theory is it's like a spawning thing where they just shoot their egg and sperm out, and then, like most other fish, just have a bit of a nest and watch over it. But we haven't seen them in action for long enough to be able to study what they're like. So those two were kind of cool. Oh, and they're found on the Baja coast in California. So yeah.
And in that Twilight Zone or whatever that area is called, there's some freaky ass things.
Yeah.
We were talking before about the snake, the viper that has the spider at the end. You've got that the fish that we all know what it looks like from watching Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
Where it's that, I don't even know what it's called, but that it has that.
The anglerfish.
Yes, that just hangs the little bioluminescent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it attracts the other fishies.
There was one thing I was going to look up, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't, but it was those freaky ass worms that we talked about in the Under the Sea episode.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I didn't look into them because I got completely transfixed by the concept of an octopus. And
yes.
Like, I knew that they were freaking cool, but I didn't realize how literally cool they are in so many ways. So just the reason that they're cool, right? You think, oh, I've got to look into this more.
Yeah.
They've got 3 hearts. Just pumping away.
Yeah.
One of the hearts pretty much feeds most of the body. The other 2 hearts to pump blood past their gills so that they can convert the oxygen really quickly.
Yeah.
And they've got blue blood because they've got copper-based blood. Okay.
Wow, that's cool.
That is cool, right? Anything with blue blood is cool, which I think most spiders are blue-blooded for the same reason of having.
It's so funny because octopus share the least genetic alleles with everything else on this planet.
Well, there was when I was researching these dudes,
yeah,
there are some very renowned scientists that basically say we cannot find a evolutionary. We've got no pattern where we can see humans came from this, came from this, came from
this. Yeah.
Trace it back, and they're unraveling that more and more. Octopus are pretty much.
They're just like the primordial beings of the ocean. They figured it out from get-go and have not really changed their method whatsoever.
And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there are a lot of scientists that are basically saying if anything came from another planet, it would be the octopus.
It would be the octopus, yeah.
Because they've been here for so long.
Yeah.
I've got them here that they've got octopus ancestors coming back to 330 million years ago, long before dinosaurs were around.
Wow,
we have them going back that. They had 10 limbs rather than the traditional 8 that we have now. So there are people that are saying that. If we want to look to outer space, let's look to the octopus. They'll give us the clues. Now, octopus have more than one brain. They actually have a brain for every tentacle. And just so you know, they're not tentacles. They're actually called arms. So yes, it's I think it's squid that have tentacles, because if you have all of the suction cups all the way down, that makes an arm, not a tentacle.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Yep.
No, points for people who are counting in the background how often now I inadvertently call it a tentacle by accident.
Yeah. yeah.
So they actually have a brain in each of their arms that works independently of each other.
You would think it would have to, hey, because how would you keep track of all of that, you know?
And their movements are so fluid
and
so precise.
Yes.
It is amazing that they can do it. But to the point that because octopus are able to regrow an arm.
A limb, yep.
So if it's been whooped off, it will regrow, and it will regrow fully functioning. It doesn't regrow like a lizard's tail,
like a baby arm.
Stumpy's got, you know. It's not really all that. It's not what he had before. He dreams of his old tail. These guys actually they literally do have a fully functioning arm that grows.
Yeah.
But what's even more interesting is the brain in the severed arm will continue to operate for over an hour
After
after
it's
it's been
hocked
severed.
off. Oh my God. So what, does that arm have flashbacks of its life in its last
I don't know,
hour? Like
but
just the screen just rolls.
I don't know, but if you put food in front of it, it grabs the food. It still grabs the food, even
Right.
though it hasn't got a beak to send it to. It
It
still
still
grabs the
goes
food.
for it. Right. So it's more of an executive function as opposed to like a conscious.
Yes, and exactly,
Yeah.
and that's why it sort of like reminded me of the episode we did when we were talking about the compartments, the different functions in the brain. They
Mm.
sort of like work independently, and
Yeah,
obviously,
it's kind of like they've
ob-
just isolated that part and then
yeah, and
placed
it
it
basically,
directly in the, yeah,
yeah,
for neural feedback. That's fucking wild, isn't it?
isn't
That
that
is
crazy?
crazy.
An octopus is the only underwater sea creature that can open a screw top lid on a jar.
Yeah.
Like we have monkeys that can do that, but there is the only animal undersea that if you not only can it open a screw top lid, which some days I have trouble doing that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but if you put one inside it, it can basically just work its way out and just pop out.
Wow, yeah.
If you Google that, you can see these
Yeah,
videos.
I've watched tons of videos of octopuses solving puzzles and things
Yeah,
like that. It's
I mean,
crazy.
I gotta say, I'm a fan of chargrilled octopus, right? I really love it, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go there much anymore because not only
Not,
do they
not
have,
now that you know that it's got fucking brains in its
it's
in
got
its
brains,
arms.
it's got more brains than we've got, and the
Yeah.
thing is, so not only they can do that, they've been known to play, which is very interesting because they're a solitary creature. They don't live
Mm,
in
mm.
a social grouping system, whereas we've always thought the concept of play
Yeah.
comes from being a social interaction.
Well,
But
you see that in dolphins, don't you? Like
exactly,
they play and stuff,
they
but they're in
play.
pods. They're quite social.
Yeah, and we see
Maybe
that.
it's just because there's no other intelligent beings on the octopus's level.
I don't know, but they actually just sit there and they like to play with themselves. And what I mean by that is that if they're in a tank, like
Phrasing.
they've got 8 arms, like you never know what the other arm is doing, you know. But no, they basically, if you have them in a tank and there's like a
Yeah,
water flow and you throw something in there, they will literally sit at the bottom of the
they'll
tank
go
and
after it. Yeah,
they'll get squirt water out it so that it keeps flowing back to them. So it's like playing catch with itself. And it does that. They throw balls in, they play it. They even had a octopus that when it was in its tank, it didn't like the light above it. The light that they had annoyed the octopus,
yeah.
and it kept squirting water at it until it short
Till it
circuited.
broke.
Like
Nice.
it sabotaged the light. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, you might not have known that. He might have just been, he just might have liked to squirt at things. No, no. They've actually got octopus because they recognize each other and they recognize humans.
Yeah.
So, and how do we know they recognize humans? Because they communicate through this elaborate system of not only body language, but color. Because
Wow.
obviously, an octopus has this ability to change its color, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
obviously to do with its amazing camouflage techniques,
Yes.
which I'll
Or
go into.
warding off predators like the little blue rings do.
Oh,
They get their blue ring from like the fluorescent blue that they zhuzh up every time that they think they're at damage. They think they're at risk.
oh, and the judging up technique, I have got heaps of details on that. So it just depends if we've got time. But
Yeah.
it's because it's crazy. It's crazy how they do it. But
Mm.
when they're communicating with humans, they will see people outside the tank. And if they like the person, their colors change to be, and it was really interesting because
Yeah.
it comes to the warm, cooling, calm colors that we see as a social color.
Yeah.
They use the same coloring system, and they come up
Wow.
with those welcoming colors, and they go close to the edge of the tank, and
Yeah.
they act all ooh,
Yeah,
come here,
chameleons do the same thing. That
crazy.
their color changing is camouflage, but it's also mood, like how
Yeah,
they're feeling and what they're perceiving in the environment and how they're interacting with each other.
Just
I love chameleons. They're so fucking cool.
just crazy. In comparison, in terms of how long it takes a chameleon to change color, though, and an octopus to
Yeah,
change color,
yeah,
the
yeah.
chameleon's a little bit slow at it. You gotta
Little bit slow, yeah.
a little bit slow. I can't remember exactly, but I think of like about 20 seconds
Mm,
or something for it to change color. It might be 20 minutes, so don't quote me on that. But it's a longer time. An octopus is,
yeah,
and it
instant.
changes. It's just like that, and it can change. The ridiculous amount of times they actually had a look at how many times they can change in a minute,
Yeah,
and it's just off the chart. These things are absolutely crazy. But what I loved also is when they move away, when they don't like you, they use all of the alert colors that we associate with alert, the reds, the bright
yeah,
colors, the
yeah.
colors that we associate with danger. They flare up with those and they get into a very aggressive stance. So they'll pull away. And I thought, oh my God, these things recognize you. They communicate through color and through body language. These things are amazing. I just couldn't get enough of the octopus of what they're able to do.
They're
Would
so
you like
cool.
would you like me to tell you how they change their color?
Absolutely.
Okay. So these octopus are so crazy in terms about their changing color. And one of the things that really annoyed me when I was looking at this on the internet, and again, I just go boo internet, boo search engines, because I thought this was fascinating. I wanted to know how they did it. Now, all of them will talk about the chromatophores, which is something within the octopus, and they can change it 200 milliseconds in less than 200 milliseconds. That's how quickly they can change color. Like we virtually can't even think that fast, and they've already changed
Yes,
their color
wow.
completely. And it's not just sort of like matching in with the environment. They're changing to the level where they're mimicking the spots, the stripes, the patterns in the coral, or wherever they are. I would have loved to have seen an octopus over written text to see what they changed to if they were trying to mimic words. I would love to
Mimic
see
the
something
color.
like that.
Yeah,
I
wow.
haven't been able to see that. What I found
So
really
cool.
interesting, they can do this really quickly in 200 milliseconds. They use 3 separate processes to do this. It's not one process that they do. And a octopus is it's colorblind. They see in black and white. So how do they actually match the color of what's beneath them? It's their skin. Their skin has a chemical reaction in it that reacts to the frequency of the color beneath them. And from that, they can map the color.
Right.
So it's their skin doing it, not their eyes. So their skin can see.
That's actually fucking cool.
And I'm like, that just makes me see color in
They're
even
just
when we
feeling the vibrations and going with it.
exactly.
Wow.
It just makes the whole concept of exactly what you just said. It's not just a sensory organ in our, it's not just eyes. They're literally feeling the color. So they do,
Wow.
and those severed limbs
Yeah,
can still see the color from their skin, and they can still camouflage themselves even when they're severed because they're not using the actual visual organs
they're
of their
using
eyes. They're
their
using
own
their own
vestibular
senses.
memory.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Now,
fucking cool.
the base colors are pretty easy. They just actually have sacks of, color-filled sacks underneath their skin that they quickly push to the surface and then retract and push to the surface to change their color into their base, browns kind of thing.
Yeah,
But they actually have another system, and I haven't got all of the different names here, or I have, and I just can't find them really quickly. But they have another sense of sensitive proteins called ospins, and they're the ones that actually mimic how light's reflected. So they actually can, that's where they get the metallics from the blue ringed and all of that kind of stuff. So they
that's
have three
cool.
different systems. And when you look it up, they don't tell you about that online. They only tell you about the one I said before, the chromatophores. They
Mm.
don't talk about the other ones, which are the ospins, and there's another one that I saw and I can't find it, but it was leucophores.
Yeah,
So those two basically, one makes metallics, so it can make all the metallic colors. Another one gives the red pigments, etc. And they all work independently of each other to produce this ridiculous camouflage that they do.
and that's why they need brains in each leg because imagine trying
Exactly.
to compute all of that in one brain. Like,
Yeah.
I'm flat out thinking about what color I'm going to pick to put on my painting.
I can't even work out what
How do
color
I make
matches.
maroon?
I can't even work out what jewelry to put on with the top, and these guys are doing this.
They're just all like, yeah.
And the thing is too, their ability to change the texture of their skin made me think of that, what we were talking about the other day with the technology one, where we're trying to make our, our iPhones and everything have texture to it. These octopus can change their texture to a degree that they mimic coral. And they do this by contracting all of the muscles in their skin and pushing out hard substances that they have under their skin. And they can effectively mimic whatever, and not to a small degree, not just doing little bumps on their skin. I mean, they can look like coral.
Wow.
They can have things popping out of them everywhere, and that's just by
they become textured.
But ridiculously so. It is just.
See, no wonder they haven't like evolved anymore. They got it all. They had it all figured out. Like they've just perfected their craft over the fucking 300 million years they've been on this planet.
I was watching this, and I was transfixed first, just sitting watching them change color.
Yeah.
And then you watch them move, and how all and it looks. The synergy between all of their limbs is just hypnotic to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they do actually look like they're working independently as well. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, they're magical to watch.
Yeah.
But did you know how venomous they are? Obviously, we've got the blue ring.
Yes, there's a few species that are quite venomous.
They're quite venomous. They in all of our oceans to almost every depth. So we find them literally right at the top. And there's one octopus that can run across the ground. He can hop from pool to pool.
Yeah.
Now, they do not breathe air. They obviously get their oxygen through running past their gills in the water.
Yeah.
But there is one that can run for an hour. And he just basically goes, oh, this rock pool is empty. There's nothing more for me to eat here.
Yeah.
And he goes for a wander and he
just toddles off. Cheerio.
Toddles off. I had one person that said it was like trying to chase a cat. One veterinarian trying to chase the octopus was trying to chase a cat. I would suggest, by having watched the video myself, that would be one of the dead cats, or the very badly injured ones.
Yeah.
Because they're not that agile.
They're not that agile.
They make their way, but just to put them with a cat, I would think is a bit ridiculous. But they do go down to the depth of 13,000 feet, which is 4,000 meters, which is not quite the depth of the Mariana Trench, but pretty freaking deep.
Yeah.
They get big, they're venomous, but the venom from the blue ring octopus stores so much toxin in it, it could kill 20 people.
Yeah.
Just one hit of that could knock out 20 grown men.
Yeah. In
just a couple of minutes. And I don't think there's any known antidote for that. What was interesting, it contains something similar to dopamine and a tetrodotoxin.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've got something here about cyanide, but I don't know. No, how it's 12,000 times more deadly than cyanide. But effectively, they use that same dopamine structure when they shoot out their ink thing. So not only do they want to, scare whoever's coming at them, they also want to camouflage themselves so they can escape, but they also want to take down the tone of what's going in the mental. They actually want to calm. Tone
them down a bit so that they're not so ragey and coming after them. I'm just gonna drug you and run away. Like this smoking caterpillar, Alice in Wonderland style.
I just think that is just crazy.
That's pretty cool. Cool. Well, can I talk about my other two creatures now?
No, I want you to.
Moving on. Well, actually, it's funny because you're going, oh, well, the octopus can run across land. They don't need to. They breathe in the oxygen in the water. Well, I come across a penis snake.
Raise fasteners.
Raise fasteners. He just needs some wings. This penis snake does not have wings. It has a little dorsal fin at the top.
He dreams of wings.
He dreams of wings. He will be Icarus one day. But it is actually a lungless tetrapod. So that is limbless serpentine amphibian, which have rings like an earthworm. So think legless lizard / earthworm, but like up to 80 centimeters long. So that's like a bit longer than a ruler. Yep.
I have a ruler right here.
Yeah. So a bit longer than that. Add 20 centimeters onto that, and you've got your penis snake. They're called a penis snake because they literally look like a wang. They live in South America, and
apart from their enormous size. Although I don't know.
Yeah, look, that's up for debate. But the phallic looking aspects of it, appropriate name. But they live in South America and they're mostly found in rivers. They can live up to 10 years. They have no lungs. So how they breathe is through the capillaries in their skin. Their skin does the breathing for them. It creates that gas exchange.
It's almost like absorbing air.
Absorbing the oxygen and excreting the carbon back through the water or whatever. So they can be on land and in the water. And when I read that, I was like, this sounds like a little bit of an evolutionary leap from water to land,
They've got amazing.
Yeah. They've got muscles in their skull that are only unique to them. No other creature in the world have these muscles in their skull. And when I read that, I was like, maybe that's probably of the ways that they control the capillaries throughout the body to be able to push and pull that, or facilitate that gas exchange, whether they're on land or in the water, like a cardiac muscle almost for their skin. Yeah. But I mean, I would have to read into that. But and to top it off, they're more than likely carnivorous. So eating like small insects and other little amphibious invertebrates and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so penis snake, think teeth, but penis version.
I'm sure I've seen that in a horror movie somewhere.
You would know if you had, because it's literally about a vagina with teeth. Yeah, it's literally about a vagina with teeth.
But I've also seen a penis with teeth.
Yes.
It was in was it called Stream? Not Stream. There was I actually turned over to it was on Netflix series. It was on at one point in time, and this guy just like unleashes this big thing, and then right when he's about to rape a woman, it opens up, and you go,
oh, come on,
bad enough, but that's too much. If someone knows the name of that series, please tell us. I know it starts with S.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would hope that she had teeth.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because that's not, and that's what happens in teeth. Someone like tries to force themselves upon her, and she's like gets these teeth and just fucking lops it off. I'm like, good stuff. But yeah, penis snake, literally, that's a thing that exists. Big old 80 centimeter long penis snake just swimming about the river. Occasionally jumps on the land for a bit of time. Looking for a good time. It doesn't have legs or anything, so you imagine just slithering around. But yeah, so the other name for it is a manaconda.
That's not true. You made that up.
It's not. Google it. It's one of the words for it. A manaconda.
Oh
I'm serious. I didn't make that up. I wish I did.
Oh my god, that is not only is that freaking hilarious, to be able to breathe through the skin is like we all do a certain degree of breathing through the skin.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there are other animals that do that, but
yes, yeah.
Like I think we even do that, don't
we? Do it to a degree. We can absorb things through the skin. It's not the same as gas exchange. The gas exchange for us relatively occurs in our lungs. Like we need
that's great. crazy. I love that.
Yes.
I
But
love
my
that one.
last animal, which really links back into the not so savory, freaky part.
Yep.
And it's funny because to look at it, you wouldn't think it. But when I was scrolling through and I saw it, I was like, oh my God. Okay. So there is a little sharp-beaked groundfinch that lives in the Galapagos Islands.
Oh, is
It
that
it looks like a little finch, mostly feeds on seeds, invertebrates, nectar, but they've also developed a special taste for blood.
as you do?
So it is a
It's a vampire finch.
vampire ground finch.
Oh, it is
So
not called that.
it is called that.
Oh,
So what it does is, and it keep in mind, it's now it lives on 2 islands of the Galapagos, only 2, and
Yep.
it is facing the risk of extinction because of a new parasite, which is causing havoc. I will talk
Yep.
about that in a minute because it's not just them that are at the mercy of it.
Yep.
But pretty much what it does is it likes to, now this is funny, it likes to drink the blood from specific migratory marine birds called blue-footed or red-footed boobies. So it drinks the blood from the boobies.
Got mummy issues.
Yeah, but what it does is it pecks it either at the tail or the
I
bum,
think I've seen this.
or until it bleeds, and
I've
then
seen
it drinks the blood. And and they believe that this occurred from an evolutionary. It began as an evolutionary partnership of the finches would eat the parasites off the
Yes.
marine birds, but because of drought and stuff, the birds have gone, well, there's no water around, so you don't need this blood, do you? Like, and they just peck it, and the boobies let them. They just let them do it. It's like this weird ass fucking Renfield Dracula relationship. You know, and to the adults, it's not a big thing, but where I was just like, oh, this is fucked, is that they sometimes they do it to the chicks.
Okay.
And the chicks often die from it because you know they literally little surgical beaks just going in for blood.
Just going, I'm confident I've seen this, and
yeah,
they're quite blood stained. The one that's getting picked at.
Yeah. And they also eat the eggs of these boobies, so like they just peck the egg until it, you know, becomes a yolk slushy. Look, I think I'm okay with that. It's the pecking the chicks. I'm like, really,
Yeah,
just go to your weird ass blood donor. Like, fucking hell.
Your little fetish, go take that.
Yeah. But the thing is that they've done this because of drought, lack of water. And now they're actually facing, ironically, the risk of extinction because of a vampiric fly, avian vampire flies. Avian vampire flies attached onto, they're like a little parasitic botfly. So they're a variation of a botfly. And they attach onto the chicks and lay their eggs in the chicks, and the eggs feed off the chicks of these little finches. Yeah, and then a lot of them don't survive. So it's gotten to the point where it's actually influencing evolution of these ground finches to be more attentive of their young. Because before they were like, oh yeah, she'll be right. Let's go out and go get on the blood with Bazza. And hit the booby bar. And then what will it be today? Red foot or blue foot? And then now they've got mum's going to stay at home so that these vampire avian flies don't infect their chicks. So, but funnily enough, it's interesting. These guys actually contributed greatly to the theory of evolution because Darwin studied them immensely. He figured there was 13 species of finch native to the Galapagos, but these are the only ones to become vampiric. And their microbiome in their gut has actually become that of birds of prey. It's evolved to digest blood.
Wow.
So yeah, like fucking hard times call for extreme measures apparently with these guys.
Well, survival of the fittest.
But
So
it literally, they're sometimes called Darwin's finches because they represent that survival of the fittest, that need to the strongest and overcome and adapt.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I actually had would you believe I had a vampire squid as well that I
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
There's one that, and it's got, just so you know, it's not vampiric in nature at all. It does not drink, eat, or do anything with blood.
Yeah.
They actually just named it a vampire squid because it looks,
Looks like a
the
vampire.
way it has like webbing in between its arms,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how it spreads it out, and because it's got black on the outside, it looks like it's wearing a vampire's cloak.
That's
And they're
cool.
quite big. They get to about 30 centimeters, but I wasn't going to mention them, but we had so many different things with vampires. I thought I'd throw it in.
Yeah. Well,
But,
there was another one that I looked at. It's like the tuft deer, and cough, and it had like little. It looked like an emo. It looked like the fucking lead singer of My Chemical Romance. It had like little black tuft up here, and then it had little fangs down here.
oh my goodness.
It's just like a little deer. I'm like, that is actually so cool. It's so cute.
Oh,
There is so many other weird creatures that we just have not even mentioned. Go and Google all of these cool creatures and read up on them, because like there's just shit out there that does not even look like it should come from this planet. Especially when you get to the depths of the ocean, like goblin sharks and ghost sharks and all that sort of thing.
And it just goes to show how much, we're creatures of our environment, and that if we're in the same environment, we develop similar features, even though they're, to a certain degree, go into a different environment. Like when you were talking frogs, there was one frog that I can remember reading up about on way back when, and it was a desert frog, and that its way to survive drought is it reprocesses its own urine through its system over and over again. So if eventually, when it emerges from the time where it has to effectively hibernate, when it comes out, it is literally its urine is acid.
Wow!
So it actually pisses acid at the end when it finishes its cycle. Like I just think that's it's like the things, and it is full acid. I looked up. There was other I really wanted to find something to breathe fire, and obviously we don't have anything that breathes fire, but we do have animals that breathe really noxious fumes. They can create noxious fumes that they throw out, and we've also got lots of different snakes that actually can spit their venom quite a distance.
Do you want to hear a story? We went to Thailand for our honeymoon, and no, we did not come across any Dementor wasps. Thank praise fastness. And we went to a snake show, and then so they had cobras and all these different snakes, big python, and I was there, and he's going on about how, if the spitting because there was supposed to be a cobra that didn't spit and a cobra that did spit. And he goes, if the spitting cobra spits its venom at you, it's going to take you about an hour to, become unwell. It takes about 2 hours to get to the hospital from here, and probably about 40 minutes before you die, And so we're all sitting there like shitting bricks, and next minute he's like, oh, this is the non-spitting cobra. And like we were in like the second last row because Tim is shit scared of snakes, like will not work with them whatsoever. And he's holding up this cobra, and it spat. And I no joke, the venom, I just shaved my legs, mind you. So I've got like open pores and cuts and stuff. And like it spat, and I'm pretty sure it landed on the seat before us. Tim and I were peeking that it had gotten on us somehow, especially me, because my legs were just bare. And he was like, oh, that one spits. It was supposed to be the non-spitting one, and we were peeking, and I'm just like, this is fucking it. This is my life done. Life flashing before my eyes, but obviously that was not the case. It was fine. No one got spat on. It was good, but it was a fucking minute there.
It was a minute.
It was a hot minute.
I would have gone mental.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that's the thing. There's so much venom out
Yep.
there in the different animals, different insects that can actually create venom, spit venom.
I think it's crazy how we've had these little nods to evolution throughout this season, starting with Stone Ape, and now we're here. And things don't have to be freaky, like out of this world, to be freaky. Like, just some of the shit that naturally occurs on this planet is mind blowing.
Mind blowing, like absolutely mind blowing. And there's one thing I'm just going to leave you with. It's not as mind blowing. Like, to me, it was mind blowing. Other people might not. But there was two facts that I didn't manage to get to before. One of them, obviously, the octopus doesn't have any bones in its body.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and we've all seen the octopus, get through a tiny little hole. It can get through a hole 1 millimeter bigger than its biggest part.
Yeah.
Which can either be its eyeball, because its eyeball can't squish, and its beak. It doesn't matter how big the octopus is, it will get through a hole, which means it can usually get through a hole that's no bigger than a coin.
Wow.
Regardless of its size, it's eyeballs that do it. There is one octopus which has got a really plate-sized eyeball.
Yeah, yeah.
The big thing. But this is the one that I wanted to that I found really interesting. Ants have, as we said, they had their own communities, etc., and they have their own pheromone signature. So you like they're wearing their colors, like
you know who you're talking to. Yeah, they got their name badge on.
Yeah, what
yeah.
gang they're in. Yeah, you're from the blue hood, and I'm from the red, and all this kind of crap. But because of human intervention and ants being able to, be on fruit that gets transported, around the town, there's this huge mega super colony that stretches thousands of miles. There's an Argentinian ant that's native to South America that now inhabit every continent except Antarctica.
Wow.
Because they all have the same signature, the same chemical profile.
Yeah.
Which means they can recognize each other, and to a level they can communicate to each other. It's a global super colony.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That's crazy. That's just crazy. And if you think, I don't know what level they can communicate with, but I don't like the idea of ants being on every continent.
It's an ant uprising.
Well, there's a
fungal ant uprising. Oh, God.
There's a lot of them. And the last thing, because we were talking obviously about science fiction, science fact the other day, ants are the only species that have been able to perfect cloning. I said right. There is a colony of ants in the Amazon, funnily enough, in the Amazon, where they're all females and they're all identical copies of the queen. So that from a genetic perspective, they clone. There is the reproduce cycle is to clone and clone and clone and clone again.
That's fascinating. I want to know, is it like Altered Carbon? Do they have little baggies of ants hanging up?
I don't know, but I thought, oh my goodness,
have they perfected artificial womb technology?
I don't think anyone knew how to do it though.
What the fucking ants do, apparently.
The ants are doing it. There's only one species that does it. Obviously, if anything goes wrong, like if a fungus comes and infects their community, they've got no ability to
reproduce.
They've got no evolutionary structure, so they will stay exactly as they are. There are no evolutionary changes, so they're obviously open to being completely wiped out.
That's taking a big gamble. Shit,
isn't it? But they obviously think they've got there, and they're not beholden to anybody. They just don't need to do anything apart from reproduce.
Oh, look, they're probably gonna like take over and become supersized, and we're gonna be answering to fucking Barry the Green Ant in the break room.
They freak me out a bit. They freak me out. The super colony is the one that I just went, no. Like, are you serious? Like, they've all got it. So you get the ants, and effectively you can get one from South America.
Yeah.
And you can find the colony in Europe, and that ant will be considered a member of that community because they have the same chemical signature, because they have slowly been transported all the way around the world.
Crazy.
What could possibly go wrong?
This is true.
That is true.
Oh, well, that was cool.
I haven't got anything more for you, and if that doesn't,
I don't either. I reckon everybody just go and look up freaky ass creatures, go and check out the ones that we mentioned because that's cool. They're cool.
Honestly, who isn't going to look up that penis worm?
This penis snake.
Oh, the penis snake.
The anaconda. Imagine if they did the movie Anaconda, but they made it a manaconda. So it's just like a giant penis eating people. No, someone needs to do that. Someone needs to green screen that shit and put penis snake in its place.
That'll be the next episode of Kong versus.
Oh god, Kong versus the Manaconda.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely.
You know, I've just looked up what we're doing next week.
What is it?
Up to the end of our season. We've only got 2 more episodes to go for this
season. Wow.
Which is then we're going to take a little break, which is good to refresh ourselves.
Yes.
But next week we are doing personality profiling.
Oh, that will be interesting.
Yeah, I've got down here, are you an architect or an advocate? Which is obviously talking about one particular kind of personality profiling. But we've obviously unraveled quite a few different things.
Yes.
Etc.
Yeah. Well, you've got horoscopes. You got the personality plus with the humorism, human enneagram. Human design is one that's been popping up in my feeds a bit lately, and it's like, are you a generator? Are you a manifester? Are you whatever? And I'm like,
yes, I have.
Yes. Okay, interesting. Let's read a bit more about that.
So we'll be exploring all of that.
Yes,
we'll be.
We shall
categorize ourselves. I'm happy to be a
Carl Jung archetypes.
Yes,
probably playing that as well.
Yes, so much. And it just goes to show we really do love to categorize things, don't we?
Yes, we do.
But we will be exploring that.
We will. So let's exit this episode with a little bit of story about a cat. So as always, curiosity may have killed a few cats, probably because they ventured into the jungle and come across this fucking super colony of ants that is allied with the fungus, and they're actually just like planning this whole fungal uprising. And, you know, Plato and Kyle are there, they're going, what the fuck is going on here? Next minute, penis snake just rolls on through like nothing's even fucking happening, and they don't even know where to look. And then the octopus is just at the riverside going, who are you? Before it puffs and ink in their faces, and they just get the best high of their lives. But there is no growth in ignorant bliss.
There is not. We'll leave you with that.
Oh, so funny. I see that as like a whole painting. Maybe I should do a painting with Carl and Plato just going.
If there was an Olympic Games ceremony that you and I were working out how the opening ceremony went.
Yeah.
There would be a penis snake going.
There would be a penis snake.
And it would grow wings at some point in time.
Yeah. Praise, fascinating. You have all these devotees at the base.
And everyone's going, what with the cats? Why have we got all the cats?
Where are all the cats?
They're the reason.
They're the reason.
Oh, that was fun.
Alrighty.
Alrighty, everyone.
We will see you next week.